Hello and welcome. Today I'm doing very small, it's only 20 centimetre by 20 centimetre, so it's roughly 8 inch by 8 inch square. It's a very small canvas and it's a very basic, easy painting that anybody can do. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm using a black toned canvas, as you can see, and the first thing we do with the black toned canvas is dip a flat brush into some linseed oil and just give it a good coating of linseed oil. And when I say good coating, I mean a nice even coating. We don't want it running down the canvas, we don't need that much linseed oil on there. Just make sure you coat the canvas well, every bit of it. This just makes it so much easier to blend your colours on the canvas. You spend less time on the palette, more time on the canvas. That's it, good coating. I just think you've covered it all. Go up and down, and side to side, just to make sure it's all nice and even. And you need your handy blue roll. Blue roll. Just tear off a sheet. Use this to just wipe down that canvas. See what this does, it removes excess oil and leaves just enough to do the job that we need it to do without making it like a mud slip or another slip. There, you can just feel it. Doesn't feel greasy, but it's there. Right, now for this nice, easy. There's that brush. Because it's been in the linseed oil, we need to rinse it out well under paint thinner and dry it well on a piece of blue roll. I'm going to take just a hint of titanium white because we don't want it too bright. And some ultramarine, just a tiniest touch of alizarin crimson just to warm that blue up. I'm not turning it purple, but just warming it up. Now, crisscross strokes, start in your corner. And I think I could go a little darker with that. Oh, darker still. So be careful how much titanium white you add, because once that white's in there, it just tend to not want to leave. Oh, it doesn't seem to be doing much, does it? See, I obviously added far too much titanium white to this mix. Oh, it should be darker. Oh yeah, that's better. Start in the corner and work your way out. And come back to your palette, start in the opposite corner. And work your way out. And add just a tiny touch more titanium and alizarin. That gives a purpley colour that we're going to add just in the middle and underneath those corners. Maybe I should have I'm doing an evening scene, but obviously if you like the brighter colour and you want to use more titanium white, then go ahead. So now I'm adding a tiny touch more titanium white and alizarin crimson to get a nice purple. I'm going to add, yeah, not purple enough. Bear with me while I get the desired colour on the... I know I said we'd be mixing on the canvas, but it does help to get something like on your palette. Right, adding that below and just blending it up. And don't overload your brush here, because the last thing you want is too much paint on your canvas. Lift it up, lift that up. Now I want quite a low horizon, so I'm going to add a bit more of the titanium white to brighten that up at the horizon. And maybe even a touch more alizarin crimson. Let's make it a sunset. Now more crimson, more crimson. I want a real sunset down here. And it's perfectly fine at this point to come down below where you want your horizon line. Once you've got that nice sunset colour down where you want it, blend it up. The idea is to not be able to see where your colours change. And again, with a light feather touch, just to get rid of any brush marks. And yeah, they say people pay more for texture in oil paintings, but my personal preference is for something nice and subtle. There we go. And that's your sky done. Give that brush a good rinse and a shake out, and then just lay it on some blue roll to drain. That blue roll will suck all the paint thinner and oil right out of it. Now I'm going to, when I find it, it's here somewhere, yes, there we go, using an angled flat. You see? I've got some mud on my palette. It's titanium white, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, burnt umber. I think there might even be a hint of sap green in it. Not that you could, it's far from green, it's very mauvey coloured. Anyway, the reason I use the angled flat is because it's so great for doing mountains. See? Put those mountains in, go that way, and then use the opposite angle to bring the other side down. That way you get a nice clean peak. And then just blend this in. It doesn't matter that it's blending into the colour behind it, because we want it to lighten as it moves down. Yeah? And it's okay that it's a really warm colour, because that's a really warm sky. And you want your sky colours to repeat in your landscape. Or at least you want to keep it all the same tone. Now I'm going to add a little more ultramarine blue, a little more alizarin crimson, and a little more burnt umber to that same mix, because our next mountain needs to be closer to us, so it needs to be darker. So with this darker mix, we're going to, I'll make this one bigger. See the horizon line down below, but mountains don't sit on the horizon line. I'll pull that one across. I just need to, I didn't mix up quite enough of that colour, so I'll just make a little more of it. There we go. reinforce that because it was a bit wishy-washy. And again, fill in your colour. Start at the top, work your way down. It doesn't matter if it blends because we want it lighter at the bottom than it is at the top. Just wipe the colour off your brush if you've got to the bottom and need to go back to the top. There we go. Very, very simple, easy mountains. Now at this point, now this is a trick I learnt off Kevin Hill. This is not one of his paintings. I'm not copying a painting from Kevin Hill, but this is a trick I learnt from Kevin Hill. You do this, the blue roll, or as Kevin calls it, shop towel. Take off a sheet, lay it on your canvas, and go have a coffee, or just tea, beer if it's that time of day, whatever. Just leave that for 10 minutes and then we'll come back. Okay, so it's been a good 15 minutes, not 10. See, now as I take this off, you can see the roll has taken a lot of the oil out of that paint that's on there, which makes more layers much easier. I'm fancying some clouds. It's also pushed this mountain back so far it's barely visible, which is kind of cool. We're going to soften this one a little more later, but for right now I want to add some clouds. Now I'm going to use this very soft synthetic round brush, and the reason I'm using synthetic rather than bristle is because my smallest bristle brush, as you can see, is bigger, but it's also much stiffer, less give, and I don't want to cut through this paint that we've already got on the canvas. So we're going to do some clouds. Now you remember that mud that I had on my palette? I'm going to take a little of that and add a little white, titanium white to it. Again, only a very little titanium white, or you're going to end up with something that's much brighter than you want. I'm going to add the teeniest hint of linseed oil to this, just to soften the consistency. I'm going to load the brush well, and I'm just going to put some fluff there. Just a little fluff. I want nice clouds there. Not too bright. It's an evening. I don't want clouds that really stand out. I just want them to be there. I'm adding a little more of the mud to deepen it, to come underneath. Let's make the bottom of that cloud quite dark. Could even go a little darker. Let's just use the mud without adding it to that mix. There we go. A nice dark bottom to that cloud. Now I'm going to take my favourite blending brush, which is an old makeup brush, and I'm just going to blend over this until it almost disappears. Just fluffing it up until it almost disappears. Very, very subtle cloud. Very subtle. Now I'm going to add a little more titanium white to that original mix that we used for the cloud. And I'm just going to do it along the top a little. Just allow it to have that little. But again, I'm going to blend that down into the cloud until it almost disappears. There we go. See, we've got the sunset down here, so we're lighting up this area. But I'm imagining the moon is already out. It's that time of the month when the moon and the sun are following each other, so the moon is just lighting the top of this cloud ever so slightly. It's not a full moon yet, so it's not really bright. It's just there. Now I'm going to go into that first cloud colour, and I'm just going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to bring this a little further across, and not quite so wide, more of a stringy cloud. We'll put that first cloud colour, and then that darker cloud colour just at the bottom, just underneath. Just darken the bottom of that cloud ever so slightly. Wipe the brush off, and then come into that lighter colour and just twiddle along that top edge, just where the moon's lighting it. Now, I'm not using any pure white because that would be too harsh for this painting. This is the titanium white mixed with that mud. And by using that mud that we've already got, that we're already using, we get colour harmony. So again, with the blender brush, the old makeup brush, it's really cool for blending. See, professional paintbrushes are so expensive. If you find something that works just as well, go with it. Nice stringy cloud there, very, very subtle. Barely there. Barely there. Subtle clouds. Now, as my brush come, put it in the thinner, so I'm going to have to tray it off a little. I'm going to add more titanium white, again to that same mud. Now just around here, I'm just going to very just around the mountains. I don't want to come across that mountain yet because we haven't detailed it yet, so see, I'm scrubbing until it blends right into that sky colour. And then again, with Old Faithful makeup brush, blend that out until it almost disappears. There we go. Now at this point, before you get your mind set on those clouds, take yourself off to a fair distance so that you can have a look at it from across the room, just so you can see how it's turning out, because you know you don't want to move on to the next step and then realise your clouds are just not working. Yeah, okay, those clouds are not working, so I'm going to go back into this lighter colour, and I'm just going to give them a little more life because they're just too flat. Just a little more life. I seem to have picked up some yellow ochre from somewhere. Let's just give those clouds a little more oomph rather than flat. And then just a bit of a nicer shape. Back into the lighter colour. And do the same for this one. Just give it some oomph. You don't want boring clouds, you don't want just straight lines. Unless of course you want straight lines. For your clouds, do you want? And decide exactly where your moon is, if you're having your moon up there, and add a little more titanium white, and just give those areas a little more glow. Tiny touch there. There we go. And maybe a little more down here. What if it looks a bit strange right now, because we're going to pick up that blender brush when I remember where I've dumped it. I'm just going to ever so lightly blend it down. Oh, here's a thought. Where's that brush gone? You can make your clouds as complicated or as simple as you like. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You can make it up as you go along. I'm just going to add a little bit of something in here, just to break up this big cloud, to make it a little more interesting. Blend that down. And yeah, how much blend until it almost disappears. Right, so I'm just going to total off again to see how that looks. See, I prefer that much more. I think that looks much better. So you do your clouds. I mean, I've shown you the basic principle. You do them how you want them on your painting. See, now highlight some mountains. Now, the mud that I used for the clouds, I've now just combined it all. I've added more titanium white and what have you. I'm going to use the same angled flat brush. Add a little more titanium white to that colour. But not too much, because this back mountain has almost disappeared and I want to keep it nice and subtle. I'm just going to lay that on and just touch here and there where I want light to be hitting the mountain, just slightly. And we've got the light coming this side of the clouds, so it wants to be this side of the mountains. The sun's already gone down, your light's coming from the moon, so let's just highlight this mountain. If you think they're a little harsh, I wouldn't go back in with the blender brush, because that's going to soften them too much, but you can just tap over them, just slightly tap, don't sweep, just tap, and that's going to soften those highlights, soften where the moonlight's hitting that mountain. Now I want to go back to the original mud that I started with. I'm going to add just the teeniest hint of ultramarine to it, just to cool it down for the shadow side of this mountain. And then, with your angled flat brush, just bring it down. Oh, so we need a bit more ultramarine in that. That's not quite made a difference. And this is your shadow side. So I'm not adding any titanium white to this. I want it dark. So let's bring some shadow across. Now, rather than just leaving it at that, where you've skipped highlights, don't cover all your original colour, but just add just a hint of shadow. Give the impression of some crevices in this lit side. And that's your first mountain. Very simply, very easily detailed. Nothing too much, because it's way back in the distance. And again, if it's a bit too much, just come back in your brush and just tap. So it will blend with that background, with the mountain colour, and it will just soften right down. Okay, so now this mountain in the foreground, well, further forward than that one, it needs slightly stronger highlights. So we're going to add a little more titanium white to the colour that we used for highlights. Not too much though, because you don't want it really bright. Because again, it is a distant mountain. It's not close up, it's far away. And again, just hit it. Just hit it. Actually, it can go a little brighter than that. Oh, it's not much brighter, but never mind. Don't matter. Doesn't matter if you come outside your lane you've already got in. You just change the shape of your mountain slightly. If you're anything like me, shaky hands, you're not going to get it spot on. And just bring it down, and we'll have this one slightly funky shape. And put a bit more white there, because this peak here is a little further forward. Join those peaks. Hold some highlight down. Wiggle it a bit. Let's have some ridges and whatnot. Give your brush a good wipe. Add the smallest touch of titanium white to your shadow colour. So although it's in shadow, it is closer to you, so you're going to see a little more detail. Now the touch more ultramarine blue if you want. And then I'm going to use the tip here, because there's not a lot to that, and then bring those shadows across. Just picking up the background colour, give it a wipe, go back to your palette and reload, and come back. Just adding a little more ultramarine and a little more white. I don't think that's quite doing it for me. So. And again, come in here and just add some crevices, just a few shadows to give the illusion of more detail. And that's 2 mountains detailed out. Right, we don't want the feet of these mountains to be quite so harsh, so I'm going to use the 3/4 bristle brush and just soften that. Just soften it. Just let it mix into any sky colour that's under there, and the linseed oil that you put on right at the beginning will help blend it. Blend the brush. Where did I put it? There it is. Just sweep up from the bottom of the blender brush. Just sweep up, and you get that nice misty feeling at the bottom of your mountain. And remember, every time you use this blender brush, you've got to give it a smudge on a piece of blue roll, just to get any paint off the tips of it. Keep it clean. Okay, so we've got our sky and clouds, we've got our mountains detailed. Again, that model that we already had with the 3/4. I'm using the 3/4. The reason I've not been telling you my brush sizes is because this is a small canvas and a small painting, but you could scale it up and put more detail in should you want, so then you would obviously scale your brushes up. But at the moment I'm using a 3/4 with the original mud, and I'm adding burnt umber, quite a bit of burnt umber, just a touch of ultramarine, and a hint of sap green, just a hint of sap green. Right, let's see if I can show you my palette. Where are we? Ah, there it is. Pulling it one way, just one way, like this, just one way. And then turning it this way up. I'm just gonna, what I'm doing here, I'm putting the brush on the canvas, pushing up, then coming back and letting go. No sliding. Don't let your brush slide, you'll just end up with smears. What we want is those bristles at that end, just to leave us those cute little ragged edges that look like the edges of trees. That's a nice big one up here, look. Oh, it sounds like the wind's getting up outside this here, Carol. See how dark this is, it pushes those mountains way back, way back. You can do this all the way down. You don't have to, but you can. If you don't want it, it doesn't matter, because we haven't painted there, it's black underneath, so when you add highlights it's just going to look like deeper shadows. So now we've done that, I'm going to use that same brush with some lemon yellow. I said cadmium yellow, it's not, it's lemon. It's lemon yellow. I'm pretty sure I got that wrong in my last video too. It's lemon yellow I'm using, and I'm going to add a touch of yellow ochre and a touch of sap green, and also just the tiniest hint of cadmium red. Right, now come back up here, see if I can find it. I'm pulling the brush this way, but then I'm tapping So I want to open the bristles up. Where have we gone? There we go, sorry. Tap, 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 tap. I want to open those bristles up. And then again, I'm just going to tap around the edge of this tree. Load the brush up some more. Add some more paint if you need to. I need to, I didn't mix up enough. You can also change the colours slightly. A different mix of colours will give you different. See here, this bush here is in the shadow of the tree. It's not getting as much moonlight. Just tap it on. Add a little Naples yellow to this. See how that works. Oh, come on, oh, that brightens that one up, doesn't it? Oh yeah, very bright. Keep that Naples yellow. I'm going to come over here. Just tapping, adding some highlights to your brushes. I'm going to add some more yellow ochre and a little more of the cadmium red. I've got a hair on my palette. Little bush there that's slightly different. Might add a bit more of the cadmium red, kind of like that. Let's have a few of these little guys. Yeah. Stick one in there in between them. Now I'm going to add a touch of alizarin crimson. Now mixing this all on top of each colour has been mixed on top of the previous colour. Now we have that same colour base and we have colour harmony in the overall painting. Yeah, I think that will do. Just give that brush a rinse. Dry it off on a bit of blue roll. Now let's go back into the lemon yellow. Touch of yellow ochre. And a hint of sap green. And possibly even a little burnt umber just to darken it, grey it down. It's a moonlight scene, remember we don't want too bright a colour in it. And using the same method, just putting that colour into the ends, I'm just going to come tappy 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 right along the bottom. Let's go up in between those bushes slightly, tappy tappy tappy. A little bit of grassy meadow right down here at the bottom of these bushes. Right, a little bit more lemon yellow and a hint, and I do mean a hint, of titanium white. And I'm just going to come along and have some of these blades of grass just catching the moonlight slightly. Right. Now I'm going to show you my favourite brush. It's a really dilapidated, very old, cheap brush. It's very, yeah, very old, but it's really cool for this. And dip it into the titanium white and then into this grass colour that we've just used. And then I'm just going to dab it here and there and it just gives us some really random, really cool highlights. Really random. It's impossible to precisely place any highlight with this brush. If you haven't got a brush like this, you need to kill one of your brushes and get yourself a brush like this, because it is just so cool for random highlights. I'm just going to give it a rinse, clean it off, and now I'm going to add some titanium white to this crimsony orangey colour we had. So we don't want green tinged highlights on crimson coloured brushes. So then I'm just going to add some teensy highlights. To these brushes. Now you don't just have to hit the top of the brush. You do need to hit the top of the brush because that's where highlights are going to hit. That's where Moonlight's going to hit it. But you could also have little bits sticking out further down. You know, that are just catching that little bit of moonlight. This brush is also really good for just dotting flowers on distant grass. You know, when you want to give the idea that it's like a daisy field or a wildflower meadow, you just dip this crazy brush and just dink, 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 dink. There you go. Right, now I'm going to, I hate this bit of painting, I'm going to do the finishing off details with the liner brush. Now, I am not proficient with the liner brush by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going into the paint thinner or linseed oil, you can use whichever. I'm going into my orangey bush colour and adding burnt umber to that. Purely because what I want to do is just add the odd twig and tree trunk. Don't even know if you can see it on the camera. Just adding odd. As you know, leaves don't support themselves, they need branches and twigs and things, and it just gives you painting a little look of being a little more finished. But like I said, I am not proficient with this. In fact, I'd even go so far as to say I'm really useless with it. I need a lot more practice, but that's what I'm doing here, practicing. Now I think, just to see if I can get the hang of it, I'm going to muddle all my greens together to get a completely new colour. Lots of the linseed oil or paint thinner. Build that brush to a nice thing. And then just going in circles in both directions. If I can never seem to get it going that way, I always go that way, but we'll try it this way. And just slightly touch the canvas. Yeah, it's much better that way. I can go much quicker though. Just to give the hint of long grass right where, you know, where the viewers stood. There's not a great deal of depth to this painting. But it's a nice, simple, easy one that anybody can do. I'm just adding a bit more of the sap green, and a touch of ultramarine blue. Let's just get some darker blades of grass. Not much darker, let's put some more ultramarine blue in there. You want to be able to see that they're there, don't they? A touch more linseed oil or thinner, whichever. Still not dark enough. Oh, my hand really does not want to go that way. Just need a bit more thinner. Try not to make all your blades of grass uniform. Some are going to have to come higher, some only barely on the canvas. Okay, now I'm going to add some titanium white to this to give us a lighter. And some blades of grass are really catching that moonlight. Not even sure I'm touching the canvas there. Did I mention that I'm not good at this particular method? Oh, there we go. Oh, yes. Let's have a whole bunch of them coming out of this corner. Oh, no, it's mixing with the other colours, so that didn't work, did it? But anyway, you get the picture. This liner brush thing really does take some practice, which I obviously need more of. But hey, if we don't try, we don't get there, do we? So anyway, that's a really simple... Oh, awful. No. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself because I've just realised how absolutely awful this piece of the mountain looks. So let's just... This is just a larger version of that soft detail brush that I used for the clouds. I just want to soften that. It's not perfect, but it doesn't look as bad as it did, I suppose. Maybe go back into some dark and just... Ooh, that's the wrong colour. Blend that through. There we go. I got rid of that mistake, didn't it? So if we can do the same here. Just break these highlights up a little. I think we got a bit too enthusiastic. They're not highlights if it's all the same colour, are they? Put a little highlight back in. Did I say this was an easy one? Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, have a go at it. Maybe because you're not trying to create a video for YouTube and impress anybody, you might have better luck than I've had. Need to really brighten that mountain too, because you know it's the highest point. It's going to be getting the most moonlight, so it really does need breaking the cardinal rule there, just adding straight titanium white, but it is mixing with what's behind it, so not the end of the world. Okay, let's get this teeny tiny little brush and just, I don't know if I made that better or worse, but anyway, it is what it is. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. Have a go. It's easy, you know, there's no technical, well, apart from the liner brush, there's no real technical brush strokes in there. It's an easy one. Have a go. You might even enjoy it. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, well done. And I hope to see you again.